Does the term minimalism leave you running for the hills? In today's podcast, I'm chatting to Zoë Kim, author of Minimalism for Families and the voice behind Instagram's Racing Simple. She and her family have lived a minimalist lifestyle for 13 years now. So who better to chat to than Zoë about all things minimalism?
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here's your host, Ingrid Jansen.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid. If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find the fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get involved in conversations related to this podcast, it all takes place in our free Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm and supportive community. Go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, Ingrid. I'm very excited.
I know. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, I feel very lucky today interviewing you because, of course, you are married to the wonderful Matt Paxton that we have interviewed here on this podcast before. Yes. And he said, Ingrid, Zoë is the best person to talk to about minimalism. So here I am.
Yeah. It's I started, as you said, and doing this. Started this lifestyle 13 years ago, and back then there wasn't Instagram accounts about it. There wasn't really much of any blog to follow.
So why is it, Zoë, that when people hear the word minimalism, they're like, they can react quite negatively to it. So what's happened there?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're asking that question because it's definitely 100% true. It's also a sure way to, for me, if I say, oh yeah, I live a minimalist lifestyle, that's a sure way for me to never be invited over to their house. Because everybody assumes that I live this just perfect, bare, white, probably maybe I'm depriving myself. I think a lot of people have this perception that minimalism means going without. Mm-hmm. And so I think they get hung up on that. But what I like to highlight is that there's minimalism as a lifestyle, and then there's minimalism as an aesthetic. Mm-hmm. So one is, design. And then the other one is, hey, let's get rid of the, 80 tops that we're not wearing anymore because we really only wear 20%.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? I don't think you have to be a minimalist. If I tell people I'm a professional organizer, they're like, "Oh, are you coming to my house and judge me about all this stuff?" I'm like, "I'm just visiting. I'm free. I'm not working at the moment. And thank you for inviting me. I'm just glad I'm out of my office and I'm allowed to go into somebody else's house. So honestly, no judgment here. But I think because of what we do, people think we have nothing in our house and we are just, constantly judging other people for the stuff they have, which is not true at all.
No, definitely not. In fact, I feel like I'm one of the most, I'm so non-judgmental. I don't know if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs.
Yes.
Personality, the 16 different personality types. So I'm an ENFP, which is pretty much one of the least judgmental personality types out there. I want to help everybody explore their best, and what that means for them.
Yeah. So let's then go back to what is minimalism according to Zoë Kim, because I think when you Google it, probably you'll find lots of them. But for you, what does minimalism mean?
Minimalism is just about getting rid of everything that isn't helping me live the life I want and need right now.
Yeah.
That's it. So, I'm not going to get rid of my couch. I'm not going to get rid of my dining room table. I'm not going to get rid of all my clothes. Like, I'm not, and I designed this modern farmhouse that we live in.
Hmm.
So I do have an appreciation for beautiful things as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
and and you don't have a lot of people, I think, maybe sometimes think you can only be a minimalist if you've got like no kids and no partner and no, nothing. There's like 7 people in your house, right? Or 9 people. How many are there when you
nine,
live together? Yeah.
nine, 2 adults and 7 kids, ages 10 to just turned 18.
Wow.
Yes. So one girl, she's the 18-year-old. But no, and that's the thing. And you don't have to be a certain way to, or a certain type, or have a certain size family, or a certain type of home,
Hmm.
or different, a certain color of walls to live a minimalist lifestyle. It truly is just getting rid of the things that are not actually helping you live your best life right
Yeah. And that is probably then different for everybody, right? Because everybody has a different way of viewing what their best life is.
now. Exactly. So it's about, how's your space functioning for you? Can you get dressed in the morning and not have decision fatigue? And because I have decision fatigue if I have too many things. So
Okay. And where do you then see minimalism being different than decluttering? Because I read your book. I'm going to show the book now to our, if you're watching on YouTube. I've read your book, and if you want to, I've made lots of notes and things and highlighted stuff. Because for me, this was a working book. Normally, I don't highlight things in books, just if people are in a panic now watching this. But because this is for me a working book. And so I've read your book, and a lot of it in your book is very, very similar to what Leslie and I talk about in
mhm.
decluttering. So what's the difference between then, in your opinion, between minimalism and just having a decluttered home?
I could give you a lot of answers to this. This is kind of hard to pin down one, but decluttering is about getting rid of things, and minimalism is about finding out how much less you actually need. So decluttering is like, hey, let's just go through and get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Minimalism is like, okay, let's take some principles and some boundaries, and let's shave your stuff down another few levels here, and actually figure out, like, wait, I wasn't using any of that stuff, and it was kind of weighing me down, and I was spending too much money. So decluttering is, I feel like, more on just the surface level aesthetic,
Hmm.
um, function. And then minimalism is more of discovering how much less you actually, you don't need. I feel like minimalism for me is a filter, right?
Okay.
Decluttering is an act. Like you're doing it, you're decluttering, but minimalism is something that you can apply to basically every decision you make. What are
Yeah.
you going to bring into your home? What are you going to, how are you going to help your kids decide what they're going to keep and what they're going to get rid of? It's all those mindset shifts
Hmm.
that happen with minimalism that don't necessarily happen with decluttering, because you could declutter all day long and you could
Yeah.
just bring the stuff back in.
Yeah.
And that's where minimalism comes in. It's a
Mhm.
filter on your life.
Right. So it's not only the items, but it's also the way you spend your time, perhaps the way you spend your money, what
Hmm.
is important in life. So,
Yeah.
in your opinion, minimalism is kind of an extra level deeper than decluttering. Decluttering, it goes on this about a lot of, in your opinion, about the stuff, while in your
Yeah.
opinion, minimalism is like, okay, I want to look at everything as a whole and kind of, but it probably normally starts with the stuff, doesn't it?
It does. It always starts with the stuff, right? We got to start, think of it like an onion when you declutter. I don't know if you've heard this analogy
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
but yeah.
I had another question in mind first to ask you, but I think what I would like to know now is, why did you start with minimalism? Did something happen? Did you kind of go like, oh, I've seen the light. This is what we need to do. So what happened? Why did you start with minimalism?
So I wanted to start wasting less food in the kitchen. So I was doing some, I was on Google and whatnot, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And I came across Bea Johnson. I don't know if
Yeah.
are you familiar with, okay, so zero waste, like the zero waste person in
Yeah.
the whole niche of zero waste. And I came across an article, and she had, she has two kids, and they lived at home with her at the time, assuming they're older now. And I saw photos of her home, and it was definitely much more minimalist and extreme. But when I saw photos of her home and just hearing the way that she was living, that's when literally I had that moment that was like, oh my goodness, freedom.
Yeah.
This stuff is weighing me down. I had two kids at the time, 3 and 5, or 2 and 4, and right, kids, stuff, life, trying to just keep up with everything, and I was overwhelmed.
And that was your first kind of array into, so the whole idea was first, I want to have less food waste. That's how it started.
Yeah, that's how it started.
And
So,
then what happened?
and my then husband at the time, so he was in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and so he would deploy all the time. And it just so happened I had to make a move. We were moving houses, and he was deployed. And it was one of these moves that we decided, so it wasn't covered by the military. And so I was packing up our stuff, and I mean, I was like, what are these phone cords for? This is from when I was like 5. Like, we don't even have a phone that this could work with. Why are we keeping all this stuff? And I started to think to myself, geez, I'm getting a babysitter so that I can pack up this stuff that we've never even touched. This isn't what I want to be doing with my time. So that's when I really started to start shedding all the clutter.
Mm-hmm. And did you have a certain rhyme or reason to it, or were you just going through random cupboards and drawers, kind of going, what are we not packing?
No rhyme or reason, because there was there weren't really any blogs, and I was, I actually didn't follow a lot of blogs either. I wasn't really an online person, but so there was no, strategies to really look up. I think probably the first website I came across would be Joshua Becker at Becoming Minimalist.
Yeah.
But that was, I feel like, a couple years later. So yeah, I just started going to wherever I felt motivated,
Mm-hmm.
and that brings me to one of the most popular questions is, where should I start?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere with no sentimentals, small area that you feel motivated, that you feel the most motivated to tackle.
Yeah. And was your husband your then husband, was he on board? I mean, did he come home one day and go, where's all that stuff going? Or was he on
I didn't
board with the
declutter
whole idea? Or
I mean, I didn't declutter his personal stuff,
yeah.
But he was pretty chill about, it didn't really affect him. Nothing I got rid of, like, it wasn't like I got rid of our sofa or something and he had no place to sit. So he was pretty, and that's probably part of the culture as well in military families and communities. They're gone so much. I mean, he was gone more than he was home.
Yeah.
So, that could be very different, right? For couples, families that they're both there every single day.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So when you decided to embark on your minimalism journey,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of started with the first layer of decluttering, actually, right? So kind of going through the stuff and first kind of looking through, okay, I don't need this. Why have I got this in my house? All of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So did you ever then use numbers to determine how many you wanted to keep of something? Because when I read your book, there were kind of like, we've only got 2 bed sheets and we've got like 11 towels for 7 people. And so was that from the start something, or were you first like, I want to get rid of that first layer of clutter, and then the more your minimalist mindset developed, you then started to go, actually, we can whittle it down much further than we even thought was possible?
Exactly. I did not start out with numbers. I'm actually not a number person. Sometimes people message me and they're like, how many shoes do you have? And this is just such a personal, like, subjective, not personal as in you can't ask me that, but personal because you're going to be doing different things. I mean, I don't know, maybe you hike and you ski and there's all these other reasons that you're going to have different or, more or less than I am. But so I did not start out with some, prescribed number or formula. I just went to, I haven't used this, or you know what, this top doesn't even look good on me. I'm not going to try to keep putting it on anymore because I don't feel good in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just did that. And so it was a lot of trial, experimenting
Mm-hmm.
through the layers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever get frustrated then when you were trying to get less? Were you frustrated by the process, how long it took, or were you disappointed maybe with yourself, how many you had in the first place? Or like, what were like the blocks that you got?
You asked really good questions, Ingrid. I mean, so I didn't really get frustrated decluttering because I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have Instagram with all these accounts, saying, oh, that making me feel like, well, this is where I should be. No, there was
Mm-hmm.
nothing for me to look at. I mean, I saw Bea Johnson's,
Yeah.
home, but hers is definitely more minimalist than I was going to go. The whole freedom light bulb came on there. So I didn't have anything to really compare it to. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel frustrated. I just felt like, wow, this is amazing. I am getting rid of stuff that I'm not using, and it feels so good. Like I feel lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And then your second question was
Like if you were disappointed with yourself with the volumes that you had.
definitely, definitely. I always say, we're really excited. We're like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get rid of stuff. And then let's just say you go into your kitchen, you're going to declutter your kitchen, and you start taking things out of a couple cupboards. Yeah. And then the reality sets in. Like, wow, okay, I have more stuff than I realized I had. Why did I do this? Why did I waste this much money? And it can really feel defeating. I think that's something that maybe myself and other people in this community don't talk about enough, is that there is that layer or two that you're going to pull stuff out and it's going to feel like you're not making any progress,
Mm.
but you are, because you started.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
it's definitely, I think like decluttering is, we always talk about the decluttering journey here in the Declutter Hub, in the Declutter Hub podcast. And I think minimalism is a similar journey as well, right? You can't
Yeah.
go from naught to 60 in 3 days. You have to take your time, and you have to also sometimes, berate the loss of things, and the time spent on it, and the money spent on it, and the energy spent on it by, keeping it and logging it and maintaining it and washing it and all of
Yeah.
those things that you need to do when you've got a lot of stuff. And
Mhm.
there's, I think, no right or wrong level of amount of stuff in people's houses. I think it's more like, what do you feel happy with yourself,
Yes.
and what makes you feel that you're getting the most out of your own home and your own time and your own energy. But I
Yeah.
think we both are in agreement that having too much stuff is hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I think, we're not really made or built, or however you want to say it, to manage all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just with the way society and our culture, and we could go get free stuff from Free Cycle, like we could acquire things. It's not
Yeah.
the depression.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's really hard. We have to put a filter on it and say no, even to
Yeah.
perfectly good things,
Yeah.
because you can have a lot of too many perfectly good things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you would love to also share with me the importance of how your perspective changes when you decluttering. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of already touched on, some of that, where you start out and you, let's just say your first why. Do you guys talk about your why?
Yeah.
Yeah, so talking about, your why, maybe, it's because I just want to have a aesthetically pleasing, organized kitchen, and then it's like, well, wait, I want to maybe have more time to cook with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I want dishes to be more manageable. I want cleanup to be more manageable. And then it kind of can shift to, well, wait, I want to spend less time cleaning so that we can go to the park sooner. So your perspective can start shifting from, oh, I just want to have an organized kitchen and I want it to look great, to, wait, I want to spend more time with people, right? I want to invest in my relationships less, more, and my stuff less.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go for a quick break. I have a lot more questions. So I'm glad we are only at the halfway point, listeners. So let's go for a quick break and more with Zoë soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're chatting to Zoë, all things minimalism. And before the break, we were talking about how your perspective can change, right, Zoë?
Yes. One thing I really want to emphasize is that a lot of people see minimalism as like a loss. You're going without, you're living without, but really it's a trade, right? You're trading your excess stuff for more time, more peace, more financial freedom. So I think that that's important. It's not a loss, it's a trade.
Right. And do people get stuck along the way in achieving this? Because you might not immediately see the benefit of the space that you're creating, and then it can become really a roadblock, can't it?
Definitely. I think one of those stumbling blocks is that people get in and they start to declutter, and let's just say there's 7 layers to decluttering. Okay. They only do 2 layers.
Yeah.
And so they get in there, they go through this process, they're overwhelmed, but they declutter some things, they make a few trips to the donation place, and then they go use their space, and it still kind of feels the same. Maybe there's a few less things, but it wasn't drastic enough. They didn't reduce enough items. So I think that they need to keep going further.
Yeah. Because the benefits that are laying just in that level below so far outweigh what the stuff brings them.
Definitely. But we don't realize that. Like, we don't, right? You don't know what it actually feels like to be a parent until you're a parent. Like, you don't realize the weight of your stuff until you let it go. Then that's when you look back and you say, wow, I knew it felt heavy in that time, but now I can really see how heavy it was because I feel lighter.
Yeah. Now, you've not been on this journey alone. You have, lots of kids as well. I mean, combined now 7, but before that, when you wrote the book, I think 4. So how did you get those kids on board? Because I think, that's the $1 million question that everybody, like, she wrote a book, Minimalist for Families. I mean, I'm on board with Zoë, but how do I get everybody else in my house on board?
Right. Yes. So I will say, so I have 4 kids of my own. Mine are ages 10 to 18. When I started, I had 2. As I said, they were, 5 and 3. So young. You really have an advantage. Everybody knows if you have kids, take care of kids. When they're younger, it's so much easier to get them on board with new ideas. So I did this, though, through positive conversations, right? So not, never punishing, shaming, or, dictating, like, you have too much stuff. Like in a negative. Because if you want to get somebody on board with something, you really need to be positive about it, right? And you want to empower your kids and make them feel like they're making choices as well. Yeah. So one of the ways I would do that is I would just designate a space like, hey, this is a large basket in your closet. This is the room that we have. Could you choose your favorite stuffed animals that you can the ones that are just going to fit in there? And hey, do you have any friends, or can we donate the other ones to somebody who doesn't have any? So yeah. There was a documentary. It's like a photo documentary. I'm trying to remember his name. It might be William Morris, but it's called Where Children Sleep. So it's a book on Amazon. He just came out with a new edition, but he also has a website. And it might be 100 bedrooms, or maybe it's less than that, but I have shown this to my kids periodically for years. It is the child from all different countries in their bedroom. And it was just really eye-opening to see how different people live. And it, because it's really easy to get stuck in this bubble.
So lots of positive reinforcements,
Yes.
giving praise, and I think probably also really showing the benefits, right, of having less stuff. Like you said before, because we can tidy up quicker, we can now do something fun and experience a fun thing.
Exactly. So I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I would ask them their opinion about, hey guys, like, my daughter would be in the kitchen with me and I would just be like, wow, we have like 4 wooden spoons and they're basically all the same.
Yeah.
Which ones do you think I should get rid of? So I ask her about something that's not hers. Right. So that, that's me I'm going to mirror the behavior that I want her to do, you know? So that was really helpful. And then I would do it with rewards like, hey guys, if help me declutter the living room. And then afterwards we can have a movie night with popcorn and like a tent. And so there was this motivation, Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. So you said indeed when you started, you kind of started like wherever you felt there was too much stuff. Mm-hmm. Looking back now, and if somebody comes to you and say, okay, I've got a lot of stuff and I love this whole minimalism thing, where do I start? What would you advise now? Would it be like just follow whatever thing you do, or have you found out a certain path works really well for you, or certain areas work better?
Mm-hmm. Without knowing the person or their home, I would probably suggest the bathroom.
Okay.
The reason why is because it typically has the least amount of sentimental items and it's smaller and more manageable. So hopefully you could actually complete it. Yeah. That's something that I think is really important, is to actually be able to complete it so that you get that win and you feel like you accomplished something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We for us, the bathroom is indeed the second room. We always say start in the kitchen because it has got smaller cupboards.
Yes.
So although the room is normally bigger, because of the smaller cupboards, you can go, I've done this cupboard. And same idea, right? Starting small, and you can go, I've done this cupboard, and it can almost be ticked off the list, and then you move on to the next thing. So I think that's fantastic. You talk in your book about your 4-box method. I thought that's interesting. I would like to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so some people do like the 4-box method, so you get 4 boxes, or one's going to be trash and then donate and sell. I like to use one of those boxes as items to be put away in the correct place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because inevitably people put things in the room and they don't really belong there.
Yeah.
So that method can be really helpful for some people, just kind of going through and, setting up a station basically.
Yeah. So you basically set up a sorting station and you go through a drawer and go, okay, this is to be put away in the right place. This I want to keep. This I need to either trash or recycle or whatever. And I want to sell. You also mentioned a not sure box. And I'm interested by your not sure box.
So this is where I would go back to the bathroom as well, because when I really want, if I think someone's really ready to kind of do a little bigger of a jump, right? Mm-hmm. So they want to go declutter their bathroom. They haven't decluttered it much before. Sure. Okay. Do the first couple layers, expired things, trash, the 2 other bottles of shampoo that you didn't like and you're never going to use, that kind of stuff. But then let's do an experiment. And this could be the not sure box. Okay. Mm-hmm. Take everything that you have not used in the last 6 months that you really don't need, put it in a box, set it aside out of sight, and then use your bathroom like that without those things for the next, I would say a month. Mm-hmm. And let's see if you actually need to go back into that box and how much easier it is to get ready. This is a good way to test out reaching those deeper levels of minimalism, right, and simplicity in a space without feeling like you're making a mistake or something, because,
Right.
everybody goes through the just in case and I paid good money for that and they gave it to me. And okay, let's just put all that aside, put it in a box and live your best life in this room right now for the next month. Okay.
Nice, nice. Okay, interesting. Because I always think, oh, not sure box. That sounds tricky, but now you've explained it to me. I think this is really when you have done a lot of your decluttering already. This is almost kind of testing yourself and kind of what's my comfort zone?
Yes.
What am I really missing?
Mhm.
And what actually have I actually gone, oh yeah, I really could have done that. And to really kind of go that step further, probably.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. Because if you think about it, the way that I think about it anyway, is if you leave the not, say you're decluttering a cabinet in your kitchen, if you leave that not sure item in your cabinet, you're not using it still, likely, because that's why you weren't sure,
Mm-hmm.
probably. And you're not feeling the benefits of a truly like simplified space of items that are serving you, because you're leaving it in there. So
Right.
at least if you do just have this not sure box and you test it out, you get to feel the benefits and then realize whether you even missed it or not. I mean, I would say so many people, why we get rid of stuff and we don't even remember it.
Yeah,
We
that
don't
is
even
true.
remember.
That is true. That's definitely true. Now, how do you maintain minimalism? Because we are in a world where we get completely bombarded by advertisements and the big companies wanting us to buy more, 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 more.
Mm-hmm.
You in a house with 9 people,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maintaining minimalism must be hard.
I think it's hard in the beginning, right? But then,
Mm-hmm.
like all things, minimalism and that mindset and that lifestyle
Yeah,
for me is like a muscle,
yeah,
right? So lift the small weights, do declutter things that don't have a lot of sentimental value, and then work up.
yeah.
And it does get easier. I have a chapter in my book that house guidelines, and I like to say guidelines instead of rules, or because everybody's different,
Mm-hmm.
but one of them is one in, one out. So if you're at your max, capacity, like my son right now, he's my oldest son is 15, and he really loves cologne that he buys with his own money, but he has 5 right now. By the way, apparently this is a thing. He's got cologne for every season, because apparently I don't wear perfume anymore.
Okay.
So this is really funny, but this is me, having conversations. He's like, I'm thinking about this one, Mom. Like, we'll be at the store. What do you think of this one? And I was like, well, how many do you have already? And he's like, well, I mean, I have 5, but this one's really good. And I was like, well, didn't you tell me you already have one for every season too? Like, so I think you need to use up what you have. You should use up what you have. Don't spend any more money on that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he'll listen,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
because I'm not like dictating
Yeah.
about it. I'm
Yeah.
kind of right. Teenagers more of like a coaching,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
They need to find their own way and kind of go, what is enough for them? And is it
Mhm,
worth the money they spend on it? And will they use
mhm.
it, or will it go off, and all of those things? It's the lessons that they need to learn themselves as well, right?
Yeah. And exactly, right. And that's what's so hard about parenting. Not that we're having a conversation about parenting, but my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think the minimalism and the lifestyle, the perspective changes. It's always changing, but you can always apply it to wherever you're at, whatever stage of life you're at. You can apply
Mm-hmm.
these principles.
Yeah. I would like to share with you my favorite quote of your book.
Oh,
You said, we can declutter all day long, but if we don't develop habits that keep the clutter out, we'll find our home filling up again before we know it.
yes.
And I think it's so true, isn't it? I think, Leslie and I speak a lot about, we love decluttering. We love, for us, the decluttering is the main part. The organizing and the finding the nice box for it, that's smaller. But for us, the decluttering is really important. But we also say, if you don't control what comes into your house,
yeah.
Yes, you need to have a throughput of things, but if constantly things keep coming in, you will have to declutter all the time as well. So you have to bring those levels down. More needs to leave, so the volumes inside your house go down, and you can really start to enjoy the space. But that takes time, and I think we can be accustomed now to really have quick fixes, right, for everything. But when you tackle your stuff, it's been there for a long time. It needs that mindset change that you talk about as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I think experiments like packing all of it up in one category, for a month really helps you figure that out faster of what you actually could live without. You don't miss it. You can't even remember everything you put in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. One other thing that I would like to talk to you about is underscheduling, because I found that very interesting. You said one of the things we really are doing now is actually underscheduling. And I think in the busy life we deal in, we try to cram more and more and more in our diaries, in our time. We don't only cram stuff in our house, but we also cram stuff in our diaries, in our schedule and everything. So how has the underscheduling really helped you?
It has given me the actual time to be able to simplify my home and adopt these mindset, shifts and strategies, because I think that's actually one of the hurdles about why people can't get their homes decluttered. They don't even have time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have time. Everything just keeps coming in, piling on top of them. They don't actually even have the bandwidth to spend a couple weekends.
Yeah. Because there's so many extracurricular activities, appointments, social engagements.
Yeah, we really try not to overcommit. And by when I say overcommit, that means leave white space in our calendar. That doesn't mean, schedule 2 events in the same hour or, back to back or something. It means leave white space.
Yeah. Have you found, and I know you're going to say yes, but I want to ask this question anyway. Has it completely changed the way you see everything?
Literally everything. I mean, relationships, time. I mean, everything. It's amazing how many, and this is privilege and I'm thankful. But there's so many good, amazing things that I need to say no to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you saying no is something that you do on a regular basis to make sure that you protect your own white space in your diary.
My own sanity. Yeah. I mean, because it's overwhelming. I mean, right. We have a lot of kids too. So we really need to be careful that we're not spreading ourselves thin. And with so many distractions and just stimuli everywhere, it's, it's a real struggle.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation, Zoë. I've really, really appreciated it. I've really enjoyed it. I'm not a minimalist person, but I do completely see where you're coming from, and I do enjoy less as well. And I'm always very, very mindful of things that come into my home. And I always think I completely agree that it's so important to spend your time wisely. That's the only thing we have such a limited amount of, stuff and money and all of those things, that ebbs and flows, but time is just limited. And I think we sometimes could be so busy with being busy and doing the living that we forget actually this is it. And I don't want to go too deep on it, but we have to really enjoy it because time just goes so quickly.
It's our most precious resource. And it does go so quickly, and we can't get it back. But one other thing I wanted to mention was that I'm not a naturally organized person. I don't like to make lists. I don't like to count things. I don't even really like to fold my clothes that I keep in my drawer. So I'm kind of like a 90%er. Like I put it away, it's clean, we're good.
Yeah.
And so that's why I needed and need minimalism, because I'm not naturally an organized person and I would not be able to function very well with all of the stuff. And I don't want to spend my whole life organizing it either. So,
yeah.
But thank you so much for having me on here. And I hope you all found this helpful and valuable. And if you want, come over to Instagram at Raising Simple, say hello. Love to meet you there.
Thank you so much. So listeners, has this conversation made you think? Has Zoe's explanation of what minimalism is for her kind of made you think, wow, for me it was always kind of a scary word, but now I'm actually changing the way I feel about it. We would love for you to share that with us. Let us know in the comments. Go to declutterhub.com, find this episode, leave a comment, or go to your podcast player and tell us. We would love to know your reaction to this podcast. And thank you so much again, Zoë, for being here. It's really, really fantastic to have you as a guest.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.